Hey, are you looking for an iOS job? Are you looking to get into the iOS job market? If that's the case, I'm going to talk about my job search process. I've been doing this for a long time now. I kind of wasn't fully invested for a period of months, but then I sort of doubled down on it, and it's taken longer than I thought, and it's still ongoing. So I'm going to break it down. Hey, what's up? This is Paul Solt from Super Easy Apps, and I'm a senior iOS software developer or engineer, whatever you want to call me. I make iPhone apps, previously worked at GoPro, and I got laid off in March when they had their first round of layoffs. They just had a second round of layoffs a few months ago. So the market has a lot of people who are highly qualified for these different engineering positions, and it's hard to stand out because so many people are applying. So if you're in this boat, don't. I would first say, just trust the process, have a system. And I'm going to talk about my system and sort of what's working for me, what's not working for me, and just sort of go over that. So let's dive in. All right, so this is my iOS job search update number 3. I think it's been a while since I last posted this. I've changed my approach a little bit, and I want to talk about those different steps. So we're going to talk about my new search process, what I'm doing to find jobs, to apply to jobs. In the beginning, I was just making a list and not actually applying to all of them. Now I don't even bother doing that because I know that I'm only going to hear back from the ones that I applied to, and there's so much saturation that there's no point in making a list to then apply. You just apply as you find the positions. All right, so we'll talk about that. I'll talk about my resume process, how that's changed, my cover letter process, how that's changed, how I might want to tweak it a little bit more. I'll talk specifically about what I want to change, and then I'll give you some of my job stats, how many companies I've applied to. So stick around if you want to hear that, how that's working out, and then some key takeaways that you can leverage in your own job search, whether you're searching right now or you plan to in the next year. These are all things that I think you need to be considering. So let's dive into that. So my new job search process really is driven from this spreadsheet and two search websites. So the first site that is really important to me has been LinkedIn. And I like LinkedIn because I get links that don't just go away when the job post is filled. So it lets me go back, especially during the interview phase. Sometimes they pull the job description and then it's like, well, what did I apply to? I don't even remember because they follow up 2 or 3 weeks later from actually applying because they have so many candidates. Or maybe they didn't like any of the candidates in their first round. And so then they're opening up the criteria or they're pulling their sort of second round candidates in. So that's kind of been my experience. Employers are super picky right now just because there's so many job applications. So if we just look at LinkedIn, I have a video on how to search, but the key takeaway is whatever field you're searching, if you're searching AI, if you're searching Android, put that in quotes because that's going to sort of bubble up the jobs that are going to have it in the actual job title. If you don't do that and you just search iOS, you tend to get some positions that are not iOS specific, which I don't know if that was just a search fluke, but like lead UI developer might mention iOS in the actual job description, but I don't know if it's an iOS specific, like searching iOS. I don't even see it on their job applicant. So that's all React I'm seeing. So it's like, maybe they mention iOS. I don't see it on this page at all. So what I found is if you want to find iOS specific or whatever job that you're applying for, you're going to search for that key term. And I don't think this has to be iOS specific. If we did Android, so you want to do Android, you can search here and you should find more relevant Android jobs. And maybe I need to start looking at Android jobs. I've done a little bit of Android. I don't like it, but if I can't find something, maybe I have to pivot. AI is another area that I'm considering sort of pivoting towards. So LinkedIn is super great. I have a video on how I do this, but I basically copy the link back into my spreadsheet. And as I apply to jobs, I put the date when I apply. That's how I know I applied. I didn't have the system before. And then it's like, I don't know what jobs I actually applied to. So I have a big list of jobs here. And some of them I didn't apply to, like these original ones. I don't remember which ones I actually applied to. Some of these might have just been a list of like, oh, these would be interesting places to maybe apply. And I didn't actually apply before the job posting went away. So that's how I'm using LinkedIn. It's a really good resource. And there's 2 searches. You can do past 24 hours. You're going to get the most recent jobs. Sometimes you get like less interesting jobs, but this is a new one I haven't seen. So 1 hour ago, target 42 applicants. This is one I might want to copy. So I'm going to copy this over. And what I do is I paste it in the spreadsheet. I'll just put like target right here, and I'll just paste the link. And if I apply, I put the date. So that's how I'm using this as a searching technique. And then you can just click on the easily apply button and do that application. I'm not going to go over that in this video. Okay. So that is LinkedIn. You can find the most recent jobs. It looks like there's some new jobs I haven't seen before. And then if you want to further sort of cut this down, like I haven't looked in the past week, so I probably want to pull in like all of the jobs, see if I'm missing anything. Like I haven't applied to Volley yet. And then the other filter I was doing hybrid and remote, but some of these hybrid positions, like they're not super flexible like I was hoping. Like one I got rejected from Clear, I think because they wanted you on site 2 to 3 days a week. And I was like, I was willing to travel on site every now and then, weekly, I don't know, to New York City. That was just going to be a big thing, and I don't think that's the right fit. So once in a while, I'm okay. Not every day, not every week is what I've decided. So here we can see all of the remote positions. I'm not sure why the SeatGeek position is still open. Like, I feel like they've been looking for a while. I've applied to this already. I don't know if I need to reapply. So that is one search website. The other one it was called Otta, OTTA. I found out about this from a recruiter who was hosting an Ask Me Anything session. This has different jobs sometimes that aren't posted on the other sites. So this is called Welcome to the Jungle now, which is a weird name. But we can see here, like if I wanted to look at fully remote companies, it's going to show me these different companies, the pay, the technology. If I hit the apply, some of them, I can't see this. You apply on their website or you apply with their profile. They say that this potentially gets better candidates sometimes. So I was checking this out. And then there's this button to sort of go through these different jobs. I haven't seen this one yet. I think I applied to that. I haven't seen this one. I haven't seen this one. So there's some new ones in here that I could apply to. Okay, so that is the other one. I don't know if I can get back to that list. I probably want to get back to that list. So that is Otta, which is now called Welcome to the Jungle. Okay, so let's go over my resume process. I want to sort of highlight that. So let's hide this and let's talk resume. So that's my cover letter. Let's pull up my resume. So this is my resume. I've kind of gotten a little bit lazy on like customizing my resume for every job just because so many jobs just want it. And I've tried to include as many keywords as possible. Like if there is something specific in the job description that I can see like, okay, that I should customize a little bit more, I do. I kind of got lazy with this just because I've been applying to so many and it just feels like it doesn't really matter. I don't know. That's my take on it. I took out the bottom section. I had one here about me. I don't know if that was helping or hurting. So I'm going to apply to a bunch of companies without that and see if that makes a difference. I don't think anything really makes a difference. I just think it's a big numbers game. So this is my resume. I largely am giving this one out. When I go to make different changes, I will save a copy. So Command-Shift-S. If I have keyboard shortcuts on, what's it called? Keycaster. So will this work? So if I save this as another one. What I do is I have a customized folder. You can see all of the companies that I've applied to, and I tend to update the date. So I use Text Expander for keyboard shortcuts. And let's say I wanted to apply to, I don't even remember. There's one called Linear. So I'll save a specific one for Linear. If I need to customize it, like if it's more Mac specific, I might call that out. I do have Mac OS on here, but I might update some of the stuff up here to be new iOS and Mac OS apps. And I might put Mac OS first if it is and maybe enhance desktop experiences. So doing something like that. Then I, oops, don't do that. I will print this. So Command P, and this gets me to the PDF button. I do this, and then I go to Resume Export. I probably should just put it in the same file, but I just have a different folder for it, and I just save it there. Okay, and so now I have the PDF. The other thing that I do is to make job applications easy. In Finder, I have my resumes here, and then actually my main resume is now in this folder from the job search work that I did and sort of revamping my resume, which I have a separate video on that, talking about that process of transforming my resume from a 1-page to a 2-page. And then I've got a customized folder in here with all of the customized resumes. And then I've got the resume export, and this is where I'll pull stuff from. So having the folder in Finder is super helpful. Same with cover letters. Cover letters, I just do them all in one folder, which I think is what I would recommend rather than having 2 separate folders. But that's currently the way I'm doing it for my resume. And let's get back to the agenda. So that's my resume process. That's how I upload them. Let's talk about my cover letter process. So we can get rid of this. So this is my cover letter, and I have a ton of cover letters, and I essentially customize the first 2 paragraphs, and sometimes I had stuff down here at the very end, but I try to limit how much I actually have to modify between them. I don't know if I need to talk more about the company. I talk a lot about myself here. Here I like to talk about like how I use the product and why I think I could be an interesting candidate. I don't know if they're reading this. They might just be filtering based on resumes and may never see your cover letter. So I don't know how important it is. I am debating doing some different things. Like I wrote most of this. I think I had ChatGPT help me sort of reword some stuff, but I also use Grammarly. I use Grammarly for any of my written communications. I generally use that to help me reword things and make sure that the sentences make sense. I'm kind of shying away from using, I know a lot of, I might have recommended this before, of using ChatGPT to help write cover letters. After watching DHH talk about it on the Primagon's YouTube channel, I'm kind of considering using less AI to write things and really making sure that if I'm writing something, I'm writing it. And if I want to like tweak it or get a second opinion, sending it to AI and say like, how would you rephrase it, and taking certain aspects of that and using it and like avoiding others. Just because I think the AI doesn't really write like my voice. And so I think that's important, that I just want to sort of share my experiences. So that's my cover letter for my last job application to Grammarly. All right. So next up, let's get into what I want to change. So I think the first thing I want to change might be trying to think about how I could write cover letters in a way that's going to be more impactful for the company. And the other thing is, it's not always the case with some of these larger companies, you have less impact. But with some of the smaller companies or startups, I feel like there's more room to contribute in a way that I can't contribute to a large company. So like at Apple, I can't be like, oh, this is broken, this is broken, this is broken. And maybe I can a little bit, but the apps are more refined. When you're working with a startup, I feel like you have an opportunity to help them improve the product. And so one of the companies that I am interviewing with this week, I I made a Google Doc and I screenshotted a bunch of things, issues in the application and suggestions, and I had 28 different things that I thought that they could improve the product with. All right, so that's one thing. I think just like talking about it from my cover letter perspective is like, I feel like there's more opportunities to maybe do a project for the company that's unpaid if you really want to pursue that. And maybe that makes you stand out a little bit, but it's a hard numbers game because so many people are applying. If we look back at the numbers, it's really just a numbers game. So like looking at past week, this senior iOS engineer, I did interview with Warner Music Group and I got denied for a staff level iOS engineer. I think it was maybe because I was not staff enough for them, even though I was a staff engineer at GoPro. I feel like they're a maybe bigger company. They had higher expectations. Not really sure. But down here at the bottom, since I'm still paying for LinkedIn, you can see within a week, 415 applicants have applied to the senior position. 62% are senior, 20% have master's degrees. There's still a lot of entry-level people applying for something like this, which I think is fine. Maybe if you're super entry, I don't know if I would discourage you from not applying just because I think it is a numbers game, but you're probably going to have better luck not applying to a senior position if you're super junior. If you're not super junior and you've been doing this for 1 to 2 years, then I think it's fine to try and apply. There's just so many people. So you have to stand out. And the biggest thing that's going to make you stand out, I think, is going to be your resume. So I would over-index on improving your resume because it is a numbers game. You've got to have keywords that you are comfortable with on your resume, things that you can talk about. And without having some of these keywords, like I have unit testing here, but I also have XC test because some people search for that term. And I have UI testing because I do that as well. So having certain keywords I think is really important. Talking about the languages, your projects, if you have any projects I think are really important. I've had 7 published apps, so these are a handful of them. Not all of them are currently available, but everyone except 2 of them are available. Yeah. So my goal is to try and apply to 10 jobs a week. Now, this is a little bit challenging when you've got a lot of interviews. So last week I was doing a lot of interviews and I still have more interviews and scheduling things. So I didn't have a whole lot of time. I don't think I applied to any jobs last week because it was just like interview mode. The other thing is like doing 1 to 3 code challenges. Now I'm working on a take-home assignment that's taken, I don't know, I feel like I've spent 10 to 12 hours on it. I think completing it is going to be a big reason for getting looked at for the following stages. It's used in the follow-on interview, so it seems beneficial to actually finish it just because I know that it's a numbers game, and if I don't finish it, like that's leaving something on the table that I think could be a good opportunity. So as I have time, I'm working on these different code challenges, and what I like for code challenges is the grind 75. So if you're not doing take-home assignments, I would be doing some of this as well as working on basic skills of JSON parsing, a web API, because there's so many iOS jobs that want you to do that type of thing. So I think I've worked my way through the first week. I've done all of these. I haven't spent a ton of time on code challenges, and I think I could do more. I would start on easy code challenges. Do not do medium until you've finished all of these easy. So this, I think, is the best approach because you're going to learn the basics that can be applied to the more complex ones. And I think you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck by not over-indexing on hard problems when you haven't solved a lot of these easy ones. So, Yeah. And I totally messed this one up because I read it wrong, but I did finish it after, I think, looking at the solutions. So Grind 75, I think, is a great resource for that type of thing. Okay, what else? I think the other big thing is the whole preparation for the interviews. And this comes back to not being fully prepared. So I've got a few things I can talk about here. But for talking about preparing for my interviews, this one, and we're going to talk about this one. Okay, so I write a lot, and we're going to first talk about this one. Okay, so let's hide this. We've talked about that. We've talked about code challenges. And I'll bring this over here and this over here, and we'll get rid of this. We'll get rid of this. So the first thing that I open up, this is my introduction, and I try to stay on script as much as possible, keeping it to a 2 to 3 minute window. I talked about this in one of my videos. I can link to that. I think it's really important. If you don't do that, you can go on tangents, and especially for interviews where you have a code challenge, you're not going to finish the code challenge in time. Every time I do a code challenge, I feel like I'm 5 to 10 minutes away from finishing. And I know that if I spend too long on my introduction for a technical interview, it's going to negatively impact the coding session, even when I'm going as fast as I can. I interviewed with DoorDash, a technical challenge. I went as fast as I could, and I was just like typing like a madman the whole time. And I went a little bit off of script, but I largely stayed on script for talking about my introduction because I find that this is super helpful to have in front of me. Now, the way I have this set up is I've got a camera that you're looking at me with a preview of myself. So I can see if I'm smiling, I can see the energy in my face. I can see if I've got hair flying all over the place and stuff like that. And I move this to my second window, which is over on my left side. So over on this side. And I have this so that I can reference it as I'm talking. And so I glance. I'm not reading line for line. I'm sort of glancing and talking because I know this enough to talk about. And I have a separate video on how to prepare for this because I think this is a really important thing of having a 2 to 3 minute intro. So that is my one document that I go over. That's my interview introduction. The other thing that I'm doing is I have this. I was going to do a blog post on this. I haven't published it, but this is kind of like 21 questions to ask in an interview. I find I like to end with what do you do for fun? I think it adds a little bit of personality to the interview. So as much as possible, I try to incorporate that because I think that makes it a more memorable experience. Sometimes that gives you a chance to talk about like what you do for fun, and it just feels like you're connecting a little bit more than just like talking technical stuff. And like I sometimes ask about meetings, how fast they can build the app, who's writing test code, like sometimes where the team is located. So these are just some ideas, and I just have this on my monitor. So I move this to my other screen so that it's off my main monitor. The reason I'm moving stuff to my second monitor is because sometimes I'm screen sharing things from my first monitor. So I don't want this on the screen. Okay. So those are some questions. And then these are some questions to prepare. I think this is an area maybe I need more preparation time answering questions. I feel like sometimes I get to the hiring manager interviews and it's like, oh, wow, this is a good question, but I don't have an answer. So there's more like behavioral questions that I probably need to prepare for more to help with these interviews. And that's probably something that I'm going to have to work on this week, probably tomorrow or the next day, because I have some on-site interviews this week and next week. So that's a different style of question. This is sort of me sort of brain dumping on some of these companies. I don't always prepare for some of these interviews as much as I should. And so when I talk about preparing for interviews, it's going through these questions and then also coming up with new questions. And so the other thing I always do is I start a new note. So I'll start a new note and say company X, and I'll just double click this to open it as a separate window. I'll close this, so the command 0 brings this up. I like to move this, because these are all my notes. I move this off screen so that it doesn't pop up if I need to find something. Put that on my other monitor. I've got 3 monitors here. So I've got a 27-inch, a 27-inch that is in portrait mode, and my laptop monitor over on this side. And all that's flipped how I'm showing it because the camera's recording. So my laptop monitor is actually on this side of me. I can't point that side of me. And then my other display is on this side that is in the portrait orientation. So here I like to prepare questions specific to the company. And I haven't always done this beforehand, and it's definitely negatively impacted the interview. Because I'm like, I don't I don't know what I'm going to talk about here. Some of the interviews, like I've literally gone on a walk because I needed some air, and the interview started like within 5 minutes of me getting in the door, and it wasn't enough time for me to feel prepared, and I didn't prepare in advance, and so I performed poorly. Or some of them, they just weren't the right fit. Not every company is going to be the right fit, but this allows me to sort of have a starting point. I like to have write the name, date of interview, and then I take notes. And usually, again, I'm going to put this on my other screen so that if I share my screen, it's off the screen and it's near the camera so that like as I'm typing, so if I start taking notes and I'm typing on the other screen, I can sort of look like I'm paying attention to the interviewer and I can be looking in this direction. I am typing. Sometimes I'll let them know that I also take notes. A lot of times they'll say they're taking notes and don't mind the typing. I rarely hear them typing, so I think the noise cancellation stuff's working. So that's kind of my workflow, and I talked about customizing the cover letter more already. I think that's a big one. Let's get into the job search stats. So where did I put this? Pull this up. And so far, my numbers are a little bit not as defined as I'd like, but so far I've applied to 126 companies. I don't know if I need this up. And from that, I've had 18 interviews. And doing the math, 126 divided by 18 is like 1 in 7 applications. I think it might be closer to like 1 in 8 or 1 in 9. I feel like I'm missing some job applications because my initial approach was just to make a list of companies that I might apply to. And now my approach is if I find a company, I'm going to apply to it. If I find a company, I'm going to apply to it. Only when I'm like too tired to actually do the resume and cover letter stuff do I sometimes bookmark something so I can come back to it later in the week. But by and large, I'm applying as I find these different companies. And then from all of that, just having my LinkedIn profile. So on LinkedIn, did we lose that window? On LinkedIn, I sometimes get messages from recruiters that leads to different things. And so that is one thing. And then the other thing was my profile. I'm trying to get more outreaches. I'm trying to post more things. Okay, so this is where it is. I have the hardest time finding, like when I go to LinkedIn, this box. I just haven't been able to find it. So here, I've been trying to post some things. So I've got some new videos on YouTube that I'm trying to share, that type of stuff. And so I'll cross-post things that I think are relevant. And then here, I think you can find posts and activities. This is just to get a little bit more visibility. I actually uploaded something all the way and didn't cross-post from YouTube because I've heard that you get better traction on LinkedIn if you're just posting the videos and content directly to keep people on LinkedIn. And then I had a blog post that I linked to. So this was me doing some embedded Swift. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing embedded Swift stuff, is just to get some content out there. You can see from here that this has had a bunch of impressions, and 295 people have watched the video in some capacity. Not a ton of watch time, so people aren't actually digging in too much. But I can see people who are viewing it and stuff like that. So I think it's beneficial to be posting stuff. I also post stuff on X, and I think the combination of LinkedIn, X, my YouTube channel, people are finding me and reaching out to me. Not all of them are like qualified leads, but it's still a good starting point. And so go to my profile. Like you can see one video I put up here that's had 6.2 thousand views. So this got a lot more traction when I was just sort of announcing my exploration into embedded Swift in July after Apple had announced it. And so I try to post iOS related things. I post my own things. These get a little bit of traction. Some people help repost them, so they get a little bit more visibility. So I think having some activity is going to get you those different outreaches, and I think that's really important. Okay, so what are my key takeaways? Let's get rid of this. What does it look like? Actually, before we get into the key takeaways, let's talk more about the job applications. So I've had a few contracts. I've had a few more that I didn't record here where it was just like, I don't know, 75 an hour or something that was too low. Apple was maximum of, I think, 100 an hour. Maybe I should have taken that. I don't know. That one was potentially remote, which was appealing, but it was requiring some additional on-site travel, which was less appealing. But I don't know. It might have been a good fit. There's a stealth startup I spent a lot of time on, and they just didn't have any cash flow, so it wasn't going anywhere. Actually, there's two startups, and that just didn't go anywhere. They just wanted me to work for free for one of them. I had interviews with OKX, but they only wanted on-site only, so that was a no-go, not remote friendly. Then I had hiring manager interviews, and some of these didn't go anywhere, or sometimes I was too slow to, like this one. I did the tech screening, but I was too slow to set up the hiring manager interview, which was the last piece of the puzzle, and they just hired a candidate who had accepted an offer that they had put out. So I didn't really feel this one. Something just wasn't right, and I was like, I don't really want it. So I sort of punted the interview a week out, and that's why I didn't get it. This one, Apple reached out on Friday, I think, or Thursday, about an Apple Pay position. So I'm going to follow up on that one just to get, see if that one will go anywhere, or just talk to a hiring manager if that position is still open. I really thought these two were potential, and I was excited about Hatch because we have one. We have a 2-year-old daughter, and I don't think I was well enough prepared, and I'm not sure if I was quite qualified for the type of person they were looking for, but it was like hardware related, and I did a lot of that with GoPro. I'm doing stuff with embedded Swift. I think it's an interesting space to be working at a software hybrid hardware company. It provides its own little challenges. I liked working with the GoPro cameras, so that was kind of fun. This was not an IC role, so it was a manager position. They reached out to me. And just sort of that exploration, I don't think it's the right fit for me. This required a lot of travel, and I think that was kind of a no-go for them. This one I wasn't prepared for as much as I would have liked. This one I still need to follow up. So then I failed this one, and this was early on. I think I can't apply for a year to Meta, and Meta really requires you to be like top-notch code challenge code monkey. Like if you're not good at that, you're going to fail. And so you're going to have to do that grind 75. I think I failed the technical interview for this one. I just didn't finish in time. And I'm guessing they had other candidates who finished in the time that was provided. Mostly got it working. After the interview, I sent my final solution, but wasn't good enough. Slack, I really thought I was going to go places with, but then they had a hiring freeze. And so I never got further in the interview process. I had a really good hiring manager, and I guess this one was still in the hiring manager phase. I was going to have a virtual onsite or something following up with that. No, I think I got to both. So I did do a code challenge for them, I think. Right now I'm working on a code take home for Dix, and we'll see where that goes. I'm still finishing that up. It's been a lot longer than I thought it would take, but I think it's been a really good learning experience. And it's kind of inspired me to maybe create some content around that, because there's 3 phases and they get progressively more complicated. So it's kind of an interesting one. And then in terms of virtual onsite interviews, I had 5 interviews on one day for Pinterest, and the same for like Reddit. I didn't get either of those positions. And then the same thing for Warner Music Group. I had the whole onslaught of interviews. I thought I did okay, but again, it comes down to like the code challenges and like coding on the fly. And I didn't finish. I don't think I finished I finished some of the intro ones, but I think for the on-site ones, I didn't do as well. And then I don't think I was the right fit for who they were looking for. So that didn't help. And then in terms of what's coming up, I've got an interview with a startup called Suno, and DoorDash. So those are upcoming. I'll be traveling for the one of them, and then I'll be doing virtual ones for the other one. So that's that. I am tracking everything. So for New York State unemployment, you've got to track all of your stuff. So this is my system for tracking different things. I put a date to do stuff like that anytime I apply to things, and I write that I've applied to certain things just so that I have a reference. Like this one day I applied to 29 companies. It was just all I did that day. And that was a lot. And so far I've heard from this one. Yikes, that's not good odds. And this one. And that was it. So 2 out of the 29, which is worse odds than my other numbers. So that's 29 divided by 2 is out of 14. So some weeks are better than others. Yeah. So that's my work search history. And so let's go back here. Key takeaways. So what I'm going to say is like have a system, track your jobs. That's what I'm doing with my spreadsheet. So if we go here, this is my iOS jobs spreadsheet. These are companies I have not applied to. I'm potentially interested in. The positions may or may not be open anymore since that was from last week or the week before. But these are all the companies that I have applied to. And I mark anytime I have follow-up, if I have additional interviews, if any of that's happening. Okay, so I think you just have to trust the process, find the companies, and keep applying. That's kind of how I'm approaching it. I'm not bummed out about any of this, and I'm kind of in a unique situation where we're okay for right now financially. Between unemployment, paychecks and stuff and our current savings were okay, but it's something that I think I need to find a position in the near future, or I need to be doing something else like teaching courses and actually selling them, which I'm on the fence. Like if I don't get some of these new jobs that I'm applying to, I might go down the route of trying to pitch some new courses. So, but I think I'm not too worried. I think having a system, knowing sort of the best practices, I think is beneficial. What's working, what's not working. And then it's just trusting the process. Like there's so many people, like I gave you some insights into some of these positions on the jobs board, that they just get a ton of applicants, especially for the remote jobs. If you're willing to move and relocate, you're going to have a much easier time finding positions. So if you just look at non-remote jobs that are on-site or hybrid, there's a lot more opportunities, but you have to be willing to relocate. So you can look at some of these and you can see like only 57 people applied to this. This requires on-site. I applied to it. I got rejected. So trust the process. It's not you. There's just so many people applying. And then I would say work on something fun. So what I've been doing for fun is I've been working on a few different app projects. I've been working on my brew coffee app. So like that is this app here. And just fixing this up. I'm adding in-app purchases and getting that all working. So just getting this to a state where I can have purchases. I'm exploring using Superwall for in-app purchase payments. It's a big learning curve, how I want to do it and sort of just thinking about that. But like, I think that's the way I want to go. Is I think there's a lot of potential for this app. And I think I just have to get it on the App Store and then iterate on it. And if people like it, they like it. And I can keep working on it. If not, then I sort of pursue some other app ideas, because I've got a lot of app ideas that I think would be really good to publish. So that's my coffee app. And then I've been doing the embedded Swift stuff just for fun, playing around with the LED stuff. So I think you just have to try some different things, learn some different things, and level up your skills. So to sort of summarize everything, I don't know if this will work. Can I hide others? It hides my own app. It's not exactly what I wanted, but let's see if we can bring this back. So in terms of what we've talked about today, we talked about my new search process, how I'm using Google Spreadsheets to find the jobs, apply to the jobs right away, not making a big list, just applying on demand and finding those opportunities. I talked about my resume process, how I'm customizing resumes to certain companies, my cover letter process, how I'm customizing my resume or my cover letter there. I'm doing the same thing. I'm saving as, and then I put whatever the title of the company is. And if I'm applying to the same company for a different position, I'm adding a little detail about which position it is. Talked about the things that I want to change. It's applying to more companies, potentially customizing my cover letters a little bit more, and being more prepared. Just going into every interview, like the whole goal is to get to the next interview. It's to get to the next meeting. So your goal is to really sell yourself, to perform well, which means you have to prepare well. And just being prepared with good questions. I think the interviews that have gone well, I had good questions. I followed up. I was well rested. The interviews that didn't go well, I was not well rested, didn't sleep well. I was not prepared. So trust the process. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thanks for watching my long, lengthy job search update. And hopefully this helps you find an iOS position, or if you're searching somewhere else in the tech space, whether it's mobile, AI, hopefully this gives you a starting point for how to think about your job search. And if you have any tips or things that are working for you, just comment down below, hit the like button, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. And the next video is probably going to be about Swift UI type stuff, or my coffee app. I'm not sure which, but I don't have any more embedded Swift stuff yet. So if you're interested in more Swift UI stuff and app development, I'm going to be making some more videos on that because I like doing that type of stuff too. All right, I'll catch you around. Thanks for watching.